In an airline, who is responsible for flight safety?
Every single person in that airline or associated with operations of that airline is responsible for safety.
What is their purpose behind it?
The safety teams of all airlines, they started promoting minding the holding point line. To prevent runway incursions.
I mean, difficulties you have faced during your training or till you get a job.
At that point, it was financially unviable for my family. A lot of pilots lost their jobs. All these challenges come up because you realize that there are people who have put time, effort, money into building you up into who you are, and you're not quite able to get there, and it's not your fault.
I mean, diverse field you have explored. Yeah.
Back then, of course, I hated the idea, but now I look back, it's one of the best decisions I made. I decided to.
We see a story where one is in uniform and all that. But what was behind it?
As with all aviation enthusiasts, I've always wanted to be a pilot.
Hello guys, welcome to Golden Apple podcast by pilots for pilots. We have today Captain Siddharth, and Captain Siddharth is flying for one of the Indian airline, and he's somebody who has very keen interest in the safety aspect of operations. Okay, so Captain Siddharth, let's start with your aviation journey. How did you start in aviation?
It's a long, interesting story, long-winded story. So, as with all aviation enthusiasts, I've always wanted to be a pilot. Okay, it started off with my obsession with aircraft because the place that I used to live at in Delhi used to overlook the approach for runway 28. That was the only runway back in the day.
Yeah, correct.
Or you could see all the aircraft flying past my house. So right from then, I used to be like, oh, I want to fly one of those. Slowly as I became older, found out the requirements for it, figured out that you needed maths and physics. Okay, horrible subjects to learn. Okay, especially if you have to do it for a requirement, no.
So most
But
of us,
40% was a requirement. Nailed it. And then I started looking. I took an Indigo flight to Goa for a holiday. Saw their cadet program, right? And showed my parents. I was like, okay, cadet program, they'll sponsor it. Unfortunately, the cadet program, at that point, it was financially unviable for my family. So they said, hold off, we'll figure out how to do it. And at that point is also around the time, I believe, when Kingfisher wound up. Okay, a lot of pilots lost their jobs.
correct.
And the prospects of getting a job straight out of CPL were slightly dim.
In 2008 or something.
Yeah, something around that time.
Correct.
So back then, of course, I hated the idea, but now I look back, it's one of the best decisions I made. I decided to get a diploma. I did a 4-year product design course, which works as a backup now. So because now that I think about it, if something happens, I always have something to fall back on.
Exactly.
So I did the 4-year diploma, and now the diploma is done. So I said, okay, I've educated myself. Let's go become a pilot. So my parents are like, okay, let's take a look. Took a look, again, prohibitively expensive, from flight training to type rating, etc., job prospects. But somehow or the other, they said, okay, fine, let's explore that Indigo cadet program again. And we applied to the school, NFTI Gondia.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't join the cadet program, but I did join the parallel batch for the first Indigo cadet program that was there. And finished my course, and as usual, of course, waited for a job. Okay. In the meantime, did a number of different things, like I took CPL and EDPL ground classes. I taught music, okay, which I'd been teaching from just after school. Ran a restaurant in Goa.
Wow.
Okay. Oh, you had to do something to stay afloat, right? I mean, you finished all the money on your CPL training.
I mean, diverse field you have explored.
Fortunately, I was exposed to all of that, so I could. And then I came back, fortunately, right around the time I was in Goa. We got my first interview call for a couple of airlines at that time. Went, gave the interviews, and it kept going. And finally, eventually, we got into an airline who was kind enough to sponsor my type rating. because all other airlines were charging quite a bit. The amounts that they were talking was, we've already spent a large amount in CPL. Amounts, the type ratings were quite expensive at that time. So, airline sponsored it, and I managed to get in.
Wow, that's it seems like quite comfortable, but just tell me something. How did it, I mean, difficulties you have faced during your training or till you get a job? See, we see a story where one is in uniform and all that, but what was behind it?
So behind it, the main drawback or the main problems that you face is where you want to be a pilot. Okay,
Yeah.
you've finished your training. Okay, and you're sitting there with a license which you can't do anything with, because aviation is like a funnel, right? The more qualifications, experience that you have,
Yeah,
you
more
you,
exposure
you move
you
in, you
get.
move on further, right? So I said, okay, fine. Now I've tried 6 months, it's not working. Let me get my ATPL. Okay, sitting, studying. Okay, um, all these challenges come up because you realize that there are people who have put time, effort, money into building you up into who you are, and you're not quite able to get there, and it's not your fault.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's not your fault that you're not getting a job. That's just how the industries work.
Dynamic.
Nowadays, with the way industries are evolving, you can't get a job just out of school.
Correct.
You have a degree, now you need a postgrad, then you need a doctorate.
Yeah,
Their
there's no
requirement
end.
is just going up. It's
Yeah,
not
yeah.
it's not like it's reducing.
True.
So I think personally, the only thing which I struggled with was that mental struggle, that personal struggle, where there are people relying on me. I'm not able to get a job. Am I doing something wrong?
That
Is this some
is
fault of mine? So you keep pushing yourself to try and rectify the situation, but you can't. So it's like swimming in a pool and you're just drowning again and again.
yeah, the psychological
It's a
impact
huge, yeah,
which you
correct.
can't even nobody can see it, but you feel it,
Yeah,
right?
correct. Unfortunately, I had to suffer 2 years. There are people who've had to suffer
Yeah,
a
yeah.
lot longer.
Exactly. During
So
that period, yeah, definitely.
so struggle wise, that's the only thing. Like I said, I tried to make the most of my time. Explored other avenues, some way to make sure that I didn't just sit around doing nothing. So I guess,
Okay, that's good to know. So, Captain Siddharth, as I have researched something about you, what I got to know is you have a keen interest in safety.
yeah, that's
So,
right.
can you just talk about in an airline, who is responsible for flight safety?
All right. So if you had asked me this as a first officer or as a new joinee into the airline, I would say safety department. Okay. But as I evolved, as my understanding of the entire field evolved, you realize that every single person in that airline or associated with operations of that airline is responsible for safety. DGCA, ICAO, FAA, all the regulators, they specifically build on this thing called a safety management system. Okay. A lot of people will see SMS and get thrown off. Safety management system consists of 4 parts. Now, you look at the flight safety manual in any airline. Okay, you'll think it's another book that I have to study. No, safety is not a checklist. Okay, it's a mindset.
Correct.
Right. When I talk to somebody about how you want to explain the pillars, there are 4 pillars of safety, of the safety management system. Okay, you drive a car.
Yeah.
So when you drive a car, your government has made rules, right? Government has made rules as to how to drive on the roads, and the car manufacturers have made rules as to how to operate their cars. Okay,
True.
this can be considered as your safety policy. This is the first pillar. It's called the safety policy.
Correct.
Okay, then you've got, now when you're driving your car, okay, you see rain. What are you going to do? Turn your wipers on.
Yeah.
You see a pothole. You turn.
Yeah. But, yeah.
You see a risk and you manage it. Second pillar, safety risk management.
Correct.
Okay. Then you've got assurance, which is your dashboard. Your dashboard will tell you low on fuel, oil pressure, tire pressure nowadays, smart cars, right? What is it doing? It's assuring you that you're okay. Third pillar is safety assurance, right?
Okay. Yes.
And you're driving, you've got speed limit signs, you've got don't drink and drive, pedestrian crossing. What is that? Promotions, right?
Yeah.
It's advising you. It's making you aware.
Airbus.
This is the fourth pillar, which is safety promotion. So if you look at it as a subject, you'll never remember it.
Yeah.
When you realize that it's actually a way of looking at things, you implement safety in every decision that you take in life.
That's
without
how you
realizing
conduct
it.
yourself. Correct. You don't even know.
But the moment you put it into a book, it becomes a subject to learn.
Exactly.
So it was a subject to me for the first few years of my career.
So you made an analogy, right?
Yeah, and then I realized that, oh, wait, if I wake up in the morning and my tire's flat, I'm not going to take my car out, or if there's a hailstorm, I'm not going to take my car out. Without knowing it, I have built my own SMS for my day-to-day activities. And that is where people get thrown off a little bit, because they think it's a subject, but you don't realize you're doing it on a day-to-day basis.
Exactly. It is
It's part of you.
inculcated.
It's part of you. And in an airline, they just need to show it because everybody has to be on the same page.
Exactly.
At the end of the day, you do have very expensive machines and you have life.
Exactly.
Much higher risk. Okay, you have everything from thunderstorms to fuel leaks to, you can have technical issues. So that is why airlines specifically promote safety to such an extent, because an accident on the road will damage your car. An accident in an airline, well, I mean, you can only imagine. We've plenty of reports out there.
True. Thank you for such a wonderful car analogies with the safety.
I try.
Just tell me one thing. When you do, let's say somebody is into safeties department. Now, when they do incidents analysis or event analysis of every flight, I think everything is monitored these days.
Yeah, every single thing that you do and say is monitored.
That is monitored. So if some event happens, somebody is analyzing in safety department, what is their purpose behind doing this?
So
is it punitive action?
No. So now the deal is that, like you said, every event that happens, you have proactive and you have reactive. Okay. Proactive is where you as an airline can not see into the future as such, but you can predict. You can predict things that might go wrong with certain procedures or policies or laws that happen, and you put measures into place to stop them from happening before. Okay, then you've got reactive, okay, where something happens.
Correct.
And you put in preventive measures or corrective measures based on what has happened. Okay, there's predictive, reactive, and there's one more. It'll come back to me. But just as a broad idea of how to understand it. Supposing we have an event that's come to us, right? What we do is, firstly, the event is, all names are removed.
Declassified.
Yeah, all names, all identifiers are removed. Completely declassified report. Just what has happened. It is then given to random people. It is not that, oh, you're with this airline, you work with this report, you're with this airline, work with... No. It is given to a random person to look at from a broader perspective. Just understand what has happened. It's not that, oh no, the pilot was my friend, so I will look at it this way.
Correct.
So it removes all of that bias from it. And you look at the report and you read, okay, fine, this has happened. Now, from a pilot's perspective, you see, if you were in that position, what would you have done? And you understand where this could have started from. Okay, you can go, if you actually look at the accident investigation reports that you find on DGCA's website, it goes all the way back to flight school reports.
Yeah.
What is the history? They will actually go into your solo release check and see what the comments were by your CFI.
Exactly.
To see where the problem, that is how far root cause analysis can go. The idea is not to be punitive. Yes, if it comes down to willful negligence, then yes, absolutely you are due to get penalized, right? But if it is due to an external factor, an uncontrollable factor, a factor that has not been factored into the current structure of policies, then we allow that leeway. Okay. Again, decision making is done by higher management. It is never done by the this thing, what do you call it, the lower management side. Okay, it's always taken by a board of people. It's not even done by one person. There's an investigation board that is set up,
So
okay,
basic,
consisting of representatives from each department.
so basically, broadly, the idea is to get a report and get recommendation to prevent anything
To prevent
happening.
it. So our deal is that we don't want it to happen again.
Exactly. That's this is the idea behind it.
Yeah. So I'll give you an example. If anyone remembers that Haneda crash that happened in 2024, right in the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
The year started off very bad for it. It's not ended very well also, but 2024 started very bad,
Very badly correct.
right? Immediately after that, the safety teams of all airlines, they started promoting minding the holding point line. Do not, to prevent runway incursions.
Yeah. These
Okay.
these days.
Excessive focus, posters, quizzes, safety promotions, live meetings, whatever it was, FOCs, So that is what we do. Our job is not to punish someone. It is to ensure it doesn't happen again.
Yeah, to find ways and means to stop happening. Okay, so Captain Siddharth, okay, so just an idea like what are the things in day-to-day operation, maybe a safety event like one, for example, we say unstabilized approach could be classified as a safety event. What are the other which you think are most prominent one, which could be safety events?
Okay, so the prominent ones are the obvious ones, the ones that everybody can see. All right, those are not the actual danger.
Okay.
All right, I'll give you a small example. A few years ago, I was operating a flight to Bangalore. Okay, and with pre-flight, we have to go through the weather and we have to go through the NOTAMs that are available for that airfield, right? Third or fourth NOTAM in Bangalore said, careful of grass cutting near taxiway Juliet.
Okay.
Okay,
In Bangalore, right?
in Bangalore.
Yeah.
And I was near taxiway Juliet or some taxiway. I can't remember what it was. And I'm looking at the note. I'm like, stop wasting paper. Why are you giving me this? I never understood the importance of that NOTAM until I flew with quite a senior person in, the aviation safety space overall. A few years ago, there was a 747 pilot, I think out of Australia or New Zealand or somewhere. And he lined up on the runway and he took off. Right? Full thrust takeoff. 747 is a big aircraft.
Yeah.
The jet blast from his aircraft killed 7 people working, cutting grass behind the threshold. The NOTAM clearly said, line up 300 meters ahead.
Ahead, yeah. This is prominent NOTAM you will find in most.
For me, I was like, why are you telling me about grass cutting? When you realize the magnitude of the consequence is only when you can understand how even the tiniest thing can cause a flight safety hazard. See, whatever sensationalized on the news, that everybody knows.
Yeah.
Okay, an engine fails, that's flight safety. Thunderstorm, hail. Grass cutting? It's not something that would come to someone's head.
So, okay, this one you said. There are many like this, right? So, are the airline doing their effort to make pilots aware about those?
Yes. So, the way the airlines work is, like I said, the fourth pillar is promotion, right? So, promotion, of course, we have our annual renewal, which happens where you have an SMS session, right? Over and above that, either bi-monthly or monthly, you have everything from posters to social media posts to email newsletters that go out. You actually hold sessions where you invite pilots. So when we talk about specific threats for that time period, for example, when the monsoon is about to start. Okay, so about 2 months before, we'll hold 2 to 3 promotions a month, which is safety meetings online. Open meeting, anybody can attend. And we'll choose certain topics which have caused problems in the past and which we foresee it causing. So, for example, now you've got monsoon coming in. You had Singapore Airlines clear air turbulence incident that happened. So we'll talk about turbulence. We'll talk about contaminated runways. So we just keep them informed that think about these things. It's not so much to teach you. It's just to get it into your head that have these ideas that there are a number of things that you might not have thought of. So we just
Reinforcing the
just
same
reinforcing
thing.
and just letting you know that these are also threats.
Yeah.
You've just come out of winter, you're coming into, if you just come out of summer, going into monsoon. Okay, first it was thermals, now it could be hail. You had no hail, you might not be thinking about it. You might push your summer flying into your monsoon flying. So things like that, just little reiterations here and there. It's like little reminder stickers,
Right.
which tells
Yeah,
you,
yeah, you will get
yeah, you'll get a little
everywhere
reminder.
hanging
Yeah,
around.
correct.
Correct.
Just it's not to
Yeah.
teach you anything or to school you. It's
Because
just to,
you're aware, it just need to
correct.
be.
You need to click there.
Yeah.
Ki, this has to be done.
That time, right? So, what do you say? See, this should be inculcated at the flying school state. Do you think are we doing it from that stage itself?
So the thing is that back when I did my CPL, I wouldn't say it was emphasized as much as it is now. Maybe now I feel it more because I've worked
Aware about
I've
it,
worked in that field. But yeah, when I entered the airline, I definitely had a very different safety aspect. Like I said, I didn't think it was my responsibility
Yeah, obviously.
because I'm not in the aircraft. I'm not the PIC. He's a PIC, so he's responsible. He's flying the aircraft, so he's responsible. So I can sit back and relax.
Correct.
Slowly, as you
Over
realize,
the period of time, it changes.
you realize that he's also a human being. He can also get tired.
Yeah.
He could also be flying at odd hours of the day. He could have, everyone could have a certain issue at home which has kept them. I could have a newborn baby.
Yeah, or in general also.
Everything.
It's not necessarily. Yeah.
So you realize that you have to take a stand at some point. So yes, I feel that there is a severe requirement to inculcate it in a much firmer way in flight school. Not to the extent where the cadet or the student gets bored of it.
Yeah.
Okay, it shouldn't seem like a lesson. It should be a change in mindset. Because what they don't realize in flight school is that you are flying yourself. When you get into the airline, you've got 180 lives behind you. Okay, somebody's family is waiting for you to bring their family safe to them. Yeah, so that mindset needs to be there from day one in the airline, which will only come if it is strongly enforced in flight training.
Maybe if I may ask, can you give us two ideas which FTO may consider looking at this important aspect of flying?
So what I've felt, I'm not sure I can give you two, but I can. The one that comes to my head straight away is getting students involved in managing safety for the FTO. All right, I'm not saying be the decision makers,
Yeah.
but be there when the decisions are being made to see the process and how it works. All right, a lot of people go to FTOs straight out of school.
Correct. Most of them. Yeah. Most of them.
Out of school, you don't have an idea.
Safety.
You just got your first car, you're zipping down the road 100 kilometers per hour,
Yeah.
So you don't have an idea of what safety actually means or why it is so important. Yes, everybody says be safe. Okay, but because your mom or dad or your grandfather, grandmother have said, "Aram se chalana." Okay,
Yeah.
you don't understand what their meaning is. You've taken it as don't boss me around. So getting them involved in the decision making process, not to make the decision, but just in the process. Yes, that will definitely help. And getting them exposed to how an investigation is carried out. Okay, how a root cause analysis. So supposing use the flight school's data. Supposing somebody's had a hard landing or somebody's had something.
Anything. Yeah.
Give it to them and ask them,
What went wrong?
what is your conclusion from this? Again, declassified, of course.
Correct.
That could definitely work.
So let me ask you something. What is voluntary reporting and how important it is for enhancing safety?
That is a fantastic question. Okay, so it's possibly the way the schooling system is, or the way your circle of friends, or the way your school life goes, which makes a lot of people believe that reporting means complaining.
Correct. Yeah. That's the perspective.
That's the perspective, right? Ki, oh, you reported, you complained, right? Not necessary. let's take your own house, for example. All right. You're living in a society, okay, and your one of the tiles in your one of the tiles in your out in your lobby area is loose and falling. What do? You will go to the maintenance office, right? And you tell them,
Repair, fix it, yeah.
yeah. You still think it's complaining, but that's actually reporting. That's actually how reporting works. You're seeing something that could cause a problem, and you're making sure that the person who can fix it is made aware. Because, like you said again, flight safety is a department, right? You can't have eyes everywhere. So that is why we extend our eyes to every single employee. Okay? If you see something, say something.
Right.
Plain and simple. It's not complaining. Okay? For all you know, because you reported that tile, okay, some other resident got saved because the management went and put the
And
tile
fixed
back in
it.
place.
Correct.
You understand? You've prevented probably an incident or an accident from happening.
Exactly.
So voluntary reporting, people shouldn't be scared of reporting something, because at safety we don't have control of being. We are not able to see what is happening everywhere,
Throughout, yeah.
and that is where you guys have to come in. So it's not complaining. You're just making the place safer.
Yeah, I mean, it could be your own flight.
Yes, absolutely. And it doesn't have to happen like it's not. It doesn't like, oh, my tire burst, so I'm going to report it.
Exactly. Yeah.
You could see something as small as maybe an animal on the runway, or maybe an animal on the taxiway. Your engines are off. It's not a problem to you. But if that animal, say a dog or a cat or something, moves into a path of a moving aircraft,
It could be a
because
big problem for
correct, right? So you're not complaining. You're just saying, hey, something's wrong. Can you take a look? If nothing's wrong, safety will say, oh no, never mind, don't worry. But more often than not, something is wrong and they will fix it.
So, Captain Siddharth, one more thing. Yes, there are other places where threat and management is discussed and talked about a lot. But here in our airline also, it is obviously it's not something which is not touched upon. We are working on it, but it is not that greatly emphasized. What is your take, and what do you think about it, and how airline is probably making their pilots aware about this aspect of flight?
Okay, so your question is that you feel that it's not
That greatly emphasized
in the
threat.
airlines nowadays.
Yeah, TM basically.
Okay,
Like if you see FAA, they have this in their syllabus.
right.
Now, I don't think here we have that part of syllabus. We do read in
We do.
CRM
Yeah,
and
CRM and all. We do
all
do
that,
threat and error management. Correct.
but not that greatly emphasized.
Yeah, correct. So I'm not entirely sure. I understand. I understand where your point is. On one side, no, the safety departments of all airlines are working night and day to ensure these ideas and policies are put across. Now it comes down to individual perspective. Okay, somebody, like I said, if me as a first officer, I wanted that SMS class to get over because it's the last day of my refresher. Right? It comes with a mindset. It comes with possibly your peer group. Okay, the people that you fly with. Okay, if you see somebody who's managing to get through the day, not in the safest way. Okay, I won't say unsafe.
Yeah.
But not, perfectly
Most,
safe. Not
appropriate,
not as per procedure.
The way it has to be.
Yeah. And you see them getting by, you'll be like, okay. I mean, you're familiar with the word jugaad, right? We all love it. It makes life easier, right?
Yeah, but it doesn't work.
It doesn't work
worse,
when it comes to, especially when it comes to aviation. The whole idea, the reason that we have procedures, checklists, etc. If you realize modifications and procedures, everything has been done in response to something that has happened.
Happened, correct.
It's not that people just wake up one day and say, let me change the procedure. Something has happened, they've analyzed it and they've made the procedure such. Okay, I was talking to some cadets recently and I gave them the example. I said, why do you turn on your lights and your transponder when you enter the runway? Is there a reason that that is the thing that you do when you enter the runway? Blank. Because they don't know why.
Why we do that?
If you find out the why behind everything, so just to clarify, it's because you want your air traffic control and other aircraft to be aware that there's an aircraft. You make yourself completely visible visually and on radar, right?
Exactly.
So if you don't understand the why behind the procedure, you'll never get an idea as to how they're designed. You know, the reason behind them.
Yeah, they say the SOPs are built by after the blood or something like that.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah. So along those lines, absolutely, there are many analogies
Yeah.
there.
Okay. So, Captain Siddharth, we have talked about SOP and flight safety. Now, just one aspect. There are few people, there are pilots who generally they just don't want to hear this word, flight safety. What do you say to them, or how do we respond to this?
So I feel that there is a severe disconnect or misunderstanding. I'm not sure what the right word is. Right? First thing that people need to know is that we are not looking out to get people into trouble.
People, yeah.
Okay. Flight safety itself has hundreds of tasks in multiple departments along multiple fields which are already trying to fix. Right? Being scared of safety, give me a reason. Okay, give me a reason to be scared of safety. And I can understand. But if you're just spreading rumors, okay, you're rumor mongering or you're trying to sensationalize something, okay, it completely defies the work we're trying to do. You understand?
Yeah.
So if here I am, I'm sitting day and night after completing a flight and I'm working on a presentation to take a session on monsoon hazards. Okay. And so post flight, I mean, you know how flying is nowadays, right?
Yeah.
So post flight, you have to sit, make your presentation, make sure it's perfectly ready, and you have to present it. You're taking the time and effort out of your off day sometimes, okay, to present it to somebody. And then the guy turns around and says, "Oh, I don't want to know about. I don't want to interact with your department because
Yeah.
for whatever reason, you give me the reason."
Though basically they are working day and night for you, basically to make your life little safer
Little
and
safer.
easier.
Unfortunately, yes, I will definitely agree. Change. Nobody likes change. Okay. If you have every time Airbus changes their manuals or Boeing changes their manuals, you don't like it because you have to study more.
But they change quite frequently.
They do. And
Airbus
again,
spec-
they're all based on
Yeah.
something. You know, it's not like, again, Airbus doesn't have time to sit there and, you know,
right.
wake up one morning, okay, let's change this to this because we feel like it. They've done something.
Yeah.
You know, they've decided, okay, for example, the recent change, there was checklist change.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of checklists vanished.
Yes.
I found it very strange. Why have you removed a checklist which tells you whether your flaps are retracted and your gears up?
Yeah.
You know,
They basically what they gave explanation.
they said that that's a high workload
yeah.
environment and stuff like that. You don't want to be taking your checklist when you're in a takeoff phase in a crowded airspace. You know, you do it out of a small field where there's no operations, fine.
Yeah.
You do it out of something like Delhi with 4
Because
runways.
You do only critical stuff.
Exactly,
And they got now I think only safety critical stuff is in
Exactly. So that's basically how it works. It's so, don't be scared of safety. You know, we're not out to get you. We're just
Thank you for saying this. People obviously
yeah, absolutely. We're just trying to make the place safer because look, I'll tell you very honestly, it could be my family on your flight.
Exactly. It could be anyone or anywhere.
Correct.
Okay, Captain Siddharth. So, how do you develop that interest that, okay, I want to fly and all, I take very quite aligned yourself with the flight safety?
So how do I align myself? Like I said, it took me some time to understand the importance of it and my role to play in it. Okay. When you stop treating it like a book and you start treating it like a mindset, you inculcate it better. I only got into the details, and I've still only scratched the surface. Okay, I've only got into the details now because of the time that I worked in that field, and there are hundreds of avenues you can take. Okay, my side was mainly promotions, right? There are people who have worked with fatigue. There are people who have worked with flight data analysis.
Event, yeah.
Okay. When you break it off, just flight safety, flight operation safety itself has so many avenues you can take that it's possible that you could have a role for everybody in the airline. You know,
Exactly. It's itself is a department.
yeah, it's a department, and it has so much work going on, which is always pending. You know, we always have something or the other which needs to be done. There's always new events that are happening. Okay, over and above that, you have an event that happens in the globe. Okay, you got to suddenly pick that up and realize, okay, this might happen in my operations. Let's now start implementing that. You know, so that's basically it's an inculcation that happened over time. Yeah, but yeah, it happened, and now
Yeah.
I'm interested. I'm interested in now exploring more, because as you get into it, as you meet new people, as you interact with new airlines and different platforms, you realize there are aspects of flight safety you never knew. You know, there are courses that you can take, which are sponsored by IATA. Not sponsored, but paid courses that you can take. Everything from dealing with thunderstorms to your contaminated runways, safety management system. You know,
It's by IATA?
yeah, IATA has courses which you can buy. You know, and
ICAO, I have seen some.
IATA also has IATA also has courses. Again, you'll have different modes of presentation, but yeah, you realize that you're a very small part of the entire thing.
Okay.
You know, always learning.
Exactly. So, obviously, you have been working throughout. Can you think about anything which you were like amazed? How? I mean, something like this. Have you been to this kind of situation? How this happened and something like that?
Well, amazed. I don't know. I mean, personally, on flights, I have definitely had situations which have caught me off guard. Okay, there is this uh, level of either overconfidence or complacence that comes in different stages of your flying. Right, the first one happens somewhere between 1,000 and 1,500 hours.
First off, this.
Yeah, as soon as you get to that stage that, oh, I know this aircraft, is when the aircraft will turn around and put you in your place. You know, you will think that you've got it,
You got it. You know it,
and then you suddenly don't.
exactly.
You know, so I wouldn't say things that have amazed me or but definitely things that have caught me off guard and definitely humbled me. Yes, there are definitely events like that. Every pilot likes to pride themselves on their landings until you have your first hard landing, and then it's just like, okay,
And it happens.
it happens.
everybody.
It'll happen with everybody.
One day, you know.
Okay, you'll have the best set of landings, and then one day a passenger will come back and come and say to you, very bad landing.
Yeah.
You know, and in
These
your
days
head.
passengers are.
So it's unfortunately that's a big problem with our industry and some other industry also, with the advent of social media. Okay, the fact that every single individual has sometimes
Opinion.
2 smartphones,
Yeah.
okay, and an opinion,
Yeah.
and a very high resolution camera, okay, which is always running.
Yeah.
You know,
Anything happens, that
anything
video is
happens.
recorded.
And the main thing is that, again, like we were talking earlier, root cause analysis takes time.
Yeah.
Sensationalizing an issue takes a second.
Yeah.
You know, you put it up on social media and it's a big deal. Oh, it's this person's fault. Blame game starts.
Yeah.
Okay, so that is why, unfortunately, these factors do play a role in, the current environment that we are in.
Exactly. So we all should be very, very careful.
We have to be careful, yeah. So we try and keep those amazed moments to a minimum.
With us.
Go there, finish your job, come back. As long as nothing. If you have, I believe in one thing: the more boring you keep your flight, the safer you
The
are.
safer you are.
Plain and simple.
Exactly. So let it be boring.
Let it be boring.
Then have fun at home.
Yeah, exactly. You became a pilot to fly. You're flying. Enjoy it. Okay, but we don't want too much excitement.
Okay. All right. So apart from that comes that, how at this stage of your career, what do you want? Like further, what do you want to achieve? Where do you want to see this?
So
Your aspirations. I mean, you are fully motivated
yeah.
at this stage also. You want
Absolutely.
to go on and on.
No, so fortunately for me, one thing that I found which helped me a lot is not to rush through my career. Okay, retirement age for pilots is about 58, right? If in today's day and age with the pollution you live till 58, right? I want to fly.
And the kind of flying we
And the
have.
kind of flying, yeah. I want to fly. I would like to fly until I can. At the On the other hand, work-life balance, very important. Okay, a lot of people make the mistake of chasing hours.
At the niche during
They
this.
chase hours, and fine. I mean, I understand you might have certain requirements. Fair
Different
enough.
person.
It's absolutely they're not a problem. But what happens is that you burn out faster. Okay, it doesn't happen just in aviation. It happens even in offices.
Yeah,
Right?
everywhere.
You've had CEOs who are younger than us.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, succumbing to heart attacks. I mean, can you imagine a day and age where such young people, because of the work pressures, the timings, the kind of life that they're leading, it all comes down to work-life balance.
Yeah.
All right, always have your side gigs, have your hobbies. Don't give up your friend circle, socializing.
Very important.
All of these things are really, really important to maintaining a healthy career right through, where you can retire without any severe health problems.
Exactly.
Hypertension, stress, and over and above that, human body is not designed to take pressurization cycles
And that too
on a
with
daily
narrow
basis.
body.
Yeah, narrow body flying, you know how it is. It's not designed. Okay, it's like you're the plastic bottle which you're crushing 6 times a day or 5 times a day.
Expanding all the time.
So it's not the way it's supposed to be. Your body is not designed to take that. So maintaining a work-life balance, very, very important. That's my personal opinion right now.
Okay, all right. So that is true, and with the kind of flying we have or we are into, so that is extremely important.
Correct.
So, Captain Siddharth, what would you say to aspiring pilot? Because we do this most of the time for aspiring pilots. What is your advice to the people who wants to come into this field or who are already into this field? What do you want to say?
Well, let's start off with the people who are not in this field yet and who are just starting to explore it.
Yeah.
Ensure that you are ready to commit your life to it, because the day you stop learning in this industry, it's true with any industry, the day you stop learning, get out. Be prepared to study on a daily basis, and be prepared to have everything you studied change overnight. Okay, on a monthly or bi-monthly basis. All right, the learning unfortunately never stops, or fortunately, however you'd like to look at it, the learning never stops in this industry. And for those of you who are already in it, you're obviously aware of what you've gotten into. Again, as I said earlier, safety is not a checklist, it's a mindset. Every decision you make will mold the future of aviation or the way it is right now. Right? Every single decision you take. So ensure that every flight that you do is safer than the last. And every mistake that you make, just don't make it in the next.
And learn from.
And learn from it. And most importantly, when you do make a mistake, and you will make mistakes, you will make hundreds of mistakes throughout your career. Don't let it dishearten you. Do not take it to the next flight. That's the most important thing, because a lot of people,
very important thing.
They take that mindset that I had a bad landing, and the next 2 sectors they've forgotten about.
Yeah.
So that is one thing very important. Okay, sector is done, flight is done, we're safe. Next flight, you can think about it at home.
Yeah, it's difficult, but then that's how it is supposed to be.
Again, comes down to how your training goes. How it started off, how it's inculcated in you in the beginning.
Correct. So basically, there are people who comes like, I came into aviation because of less studies. Now you're saying you have to study throughout life.
Absolutely.
So that's just change for them, no?
Absolutely, it would be a change for them. If they've heard that you don't have to study throughout life, okay, all the things that you study in your initial training, you have to keep that in the back of your head. Over and above that, if you have 5 books in your training for CPL, you'll have 50 books in the airline. And the funny thing is, It's not all of them don't have to be memorized. That's one thing that people need to remember.
Yeah.
Nowadays, it's not about memorizing information. Human brain has a limit. The important thing is know where to find the information
Correct.
in a timely manner. Of course, now it's back in the day we used to have books and you had to flick through and remember the section. Now you've got a search button, so
Yes.
it does make life a lot easier.
Made quite easy that one.
So that's the thing.
But then your trainer will ask you not to use the search button.
Absolutely, those of course we can talk about those for hours.
Then find it where it is.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So, Captain Siddharth, as you are also into AI. So, what do you think? Okay, this is quite simply hypothetical,
Oh, fantastic.
but not unreal. What is your take on single pilot operation
All right. So
from the
you're
safety
asking
aspect
somebody
of it?
from the safety
Yeah,
a safety aspect
from
what they
safety-
believe in
Yeah.
single cockpit environments. I personally have issues with certain dual cockpit environments right now. I feel there should be a third pilot. Especially again, like I said, the kind of growth that the aviation industry has seen over the last couple of years and the growth that it's projected. Okay, especially with airlines buying aircraft left, right, and center. The kind of flying that is going to take place, or the boom in flying that's going to take place, I'm not completely convinced. I could be wrong. Okay, it's my perspective. I'm not completely convinced that the effect on the human factors has been taken into account. People are fatigued now.
Yeah.
Fatigue is a rampant problem now in the industry. Okay. And when you have two pilots in the cockpit, at least you have a cross check.
Yeah.
Okay, you take one out, and you pretty much you've got a recipe. I'm sure there are minds greater than ours working on this.
Obviously.
Okay, there's not going to let this go just like that.
Yeah.
So I'm not seeing it happening soon. Okay, more importantly, now with public sentiment, etc., I don't think 90% of our public will be happy with just one pilot. We're not accounting for simple things like pilot incapacitation, etc. So these things require tons and tons of research and a lot of technological implementation. So for those of you who are being pilots now, don't worry, you've got a long career ahead.
Your
of you.
career is there.
You've got a career. There's no worry about it taking over. Yeah, maybe 50, 100 years down the line. I know airline aircraft manufacturers are rushing.
Especially Airbus.
They're trying.
Yeah.
They're trying their best because nowadays it's all about optimization, cost cutting. Try and get it done.
Whenever we go flight, one of us like flying after a break, he'll still take that moment and say to other person, "Yeah, I'm flying." After
Absolutely,
a while.
that's part of our thread briefing that we
Yeah,
do. That
and
look, I'm
then
flying
you
after
doesn't have that person itself. You don't have that person.
Correct.
So that's
So it does it. So single cockpit. It'll be great. I mean, for the manufacturers
them.
and for the airlines. But personally, I feel that we've got a long way to go before implementation. There are too many aspects which have not been looked at. It is a fairly new, radical change. It's too radical for the current scenario.
And even as a passenger, it's difficult to take the flight. Some airline can start, okay, we have two pilots, fly with us.
Correct. Yeah, exactly. It could be used as a sales pitch.
That would be a
Absolutely.
sale.
Absolutely. But then again, like I said, there are minds greater than us working on this.
Yeah.
So it's just a personal opinion. I have not researched it enough to know what stage it's reached. But we're safe.
I have read about this in some ICAO documents, their recommendation. I read about it. And also the Federation of the US, that FAA wala. They are not quite satisfied with this.
Fair enough. I
But
mean,
the manufacturers are still, especially Airbus, they are still pushing for it. Let's see.
They will. I mean, maybe it's. I'm not entirely sure whether. See, what makes sense is if you design a single cockpit with the intent of tackling pilot incapacitation. That yes, even right now, the systems that are in place, a single pilot can fly it. But maybe they're trying to make that easier. But to have a single pilot when the doors are closed, I cannot. It's difficult for me to digest. It doesn't make sense because how do you account for training? Who's a trainer? Who's a trainee? How do you get first officers to become captains?
God knows.
How do you go from the right seat to the left? How do you train the right seat
There will
pilot?
be only one seat.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's just not making sense completely right now. Of course, 100 years down the line, you never know.
They must be doing something or other.
absolutely.
Okay, so we have talked about safety, we have talked about AI,
Yeah.
and we have talked about. Now, what is one thing which I would like to know from you? How do you see Indian aviation growing? The growth and what is the demand which might come 10 year down the line?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, considering the recent acquisitions, mergers, the recent news of aircraft orders, general geopolitical situations, the way our country's been, growing.
Yeah.
Okay, it's going to be a hub. It's going to be a significant hub. My opinion again, it's going to be a significant hub, and eventually we're going to have the logistics are going to cause a problem. You're not going to have enough airports
Exactly.
for the
That's
kind of growth that we're seeing. You're not going to have enough parking bays. Again, fortunately, our governments and rule makers, policy makers, they are working hand in hand with this growth. So there are plenty of projects to
and they are coming up. Yeah.
revamp private airports and airfields. Udan scheme has always been there for a long time. So yes, the scope is great, all right, and the opportunities are going to grow quite significantly and very rapidly.
Now,
the next few years.
see the way middle class is growing here, and currently roughly 5% of our population flies.
I'm not entirely sure of the the figure,
Somewhere close
but yeah,
to that.
it's very small.
Fraction of the
Yes, that's
population.
very small.
Even
part
if
of
it doubles, because the middle class is now growing rapidly, so this number, even if this number doubles, the kind of growth we could see.
Correct.
So, do you think we are prepared for that? To
I am possibly not in. No, I probably don't have the information to actually make that call.
Okay.
But yes, definitely. From what I've seen, there have been certain slowdowns. Yes, sometimes the what do we call it? The airline's capacity has faced problems at certain airports, at certain airfields, infrastructure problems, etc. But they have been tackled. So yes, there will be hiccups along the way, but I have a feeling that eventually goals will align and the end state will be something quite desirable.
Perfect. All right, Captain Siddharth. So, do you have any personal safety slogan for all of us, for all the aspiring pilots who are looking this?
Personal safety slogan. No, I've already gave you the two that I have. One is the day you start learning, get out, and always make the the next flight safer than the last.
Perfect. So that's one of very important take out of this. That's about it, Captain Siddharth. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having
me. It was
me.
wonderful chatting with you.
Absolute
Thank
pleasure.
you so much.
Thank you very much.